San Diego County taxpayers may soon see slightly smaller paychecks. In an effort to shrink the state's budget deficit, California lawmakers authorized a 10% increase in taxes withheld from worker paychecks beginning November 1st. And this is not a tax increase. We asked San Diego tax fighter Richard Ryder how this will impact local taxpayers, and here's what he had to say.
The impact is probably less than the discontent that it's generating, but the consequences are bigger than most people initially think. Here we are, we're moving into a holiday period. Last thing people need is less money in their paychecks. The federal government is trying to increase stimulus. In California, we're trying to pull money out of people's paychecks. That's bad enough. But then you look next spring and summer when you expect to get the money back. What did the government do last summer? Well, something they issued called IOUs. So when the taxpayers are expecting to get refund checks, they may be getting IOUs because they're not solving any problem in the meantime. The problem is still very real in terms of the spending problems of California. This shifts money but doesn't solve anything. It delays a solution.
Joining me now to discuss the increased withholding on state taxes are John Warren, editor and publisher of San Diego Voice and Viewpoint, Tom York, contributing editor of the San Diego Business Journal. I welcome you both, gentlemen. But before I get to your comments on Richard's statement, let's look at how the increase in tax withholdings will impact people. For a single taxpayer earning $34,000 with one allowance, expect about $8 less per month. For a married taxpayer earning $63,000 with two dependents, you need to expect a decrease in your paycheck of between $4 and $12 a month. So with that behind us, let's start with Richard Ryder's last comment. He said, basically, what does this 10% increase in withholding solve? What does it solve? John Warren.
Well, I guess it depends on who you talk to. If you're on the state side, you're saying it's helpful. But at the same time that they're taking this money from individuals, we see we already have a projected $1 billion deficit where we weren't expecting one. So to the average taxpayer, the response is it's not solving anything.
Well, do you agree with Richard Ryder that it actually delays a solution to the state's budget problems?
Well, the state had a situation where they had to or the state legislature had to come up with $48 billion in new revenue sources. So this is just a small piece of that. It's a billion, almost close to $2 billion. But in a way, it's not solving a problem. It's just pushing it out into future years.
But meanwhile, it may be creating another problem, Tom. I mean, let's look at Richard's other concern. The less money in the paycheck means less spending, which means less revenues to the state. So was this a short-sighted decision?
I'm not sure if it's short-sighted or not, but I think the state legislature was in a desperate situation. They have to protect, the interest of the state bureaucracy, their own interest, and so they were looking for any source of revenue they could find, and they came up with this gimmick, and it is a gimmick, and it's going to cost them down the road. They're going to have to come up with some way to make up for this.
A gimmick that penalizes people?
Well, I think the operative word here is acceptable. Because there were ways to raise this money. They could have had a tax increase, even though there are people in the state who don't want an increase. But the decision was made to take from those who already need the help the most. So yes, I would call it a gimmick, and it was suggested then that this problem would only push off the reality, and the day of reckoning is coming now with greater intensity.
So now the state gets to use whatever overpayment we make on our taxes and not pay us interest on basically what is a loan. How ethical is that?
Well, ethics never enters the picture when state government is functioning in terms of its own interests. Ethics only apply to others.
Only to others. All right, chances are that more of us will get tax refunds after we file our taxes if we're paying out more in withholding. Chances are we're going to get refunds at the end. But suppose the state runs out of money. Suppose that there's no money to pay us what we should what is rightfully ours.
Right. Well, the extra money that's being taken out of our paycheck for state taxes, the withholding, it's going to continue past the refund period. It's going to go on to the end of the year and into next year. So it's really kind of a sly way of increasing revenues to the state without really getting into tax increases.
Do you think that there are other manipulations that we can expect?
I think manipulation is the name of the game in Sacramento these days.
So, yeah, but I mean, the name of the game, but in terms of something like this, this withholding, I mean, could it become permanent, or could we see perhaps that the withholding might even increase in 2011?
Well, it could. They didn't set a sunset on it. I mean, they just reserved the right to come in and change it. But let's remember that the withholding is on top of the furloughs that people are already experiencing. And so this represents an additional reduction in terms of the actual amount of money coming into households. And let's remember that many state employees are paid on a monthly basis on top of that. And what do we have, 2 pay periods left? Or 1 pay period left for this year after this particular one with the holiday season?
That's right.
So it becomes very serious when you look at it in that context.